Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
The insomnia hit me around 2:30 a.m., same as always. I lay there listening to Sloane's steady breathing, wondering when she'd started sleeping so peacefully. Used to be she'd toss and turn like she was wrestling demons. Now she slept like a woman with nothing on her conscience. My head pounded like a construction crew was jackhammering behind my eyeballs. I slipped out of bed, padding barefoot across our hardwood floors toward the bathroom. The apartment was one of those faux luxury places downtown, all granite countertops and stainless steel appliances, but thin walls that let you hear Mrs. Chen arguing with her cats at 3 a.m. I rummaged through the medicine cabinet, finding everything except what I needed. Sloane's purse sat on the vanity, that overpriced leather monstrosity she'd bought with her latest bonus. She always kept a bottle of Tylenol in there, buried somewhere between her 17 different lip glosses and the credit cards she wielded like weapons of mass destruction. My fingers found the familiar rattle of pills, but they also brushed against something else. A small gift box, wrapped in silver paper with a black ribbon. Not exactly Sloane's usual style. She preferred gold everything, like some kind of modern-day Midas. Curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. I unwrapped the box carefully, making sure I could put it back exactly as I'd found it. Inside, nestled in black tissue paper, was something that made me blink twice to make sure I wasn't hallucinating from sleep deprivation. A plaster cast of a penis. A very detailed, very realistic plaster cast of someone's manhood, complete with what appeared to be professionally applied flesh-tone paint. Underneath it, a note written in masculine handwriting, "This will remind you of a real man, which you've never had." Yamtke. I stared at the thing for a full 30 seconds, my brain trying to process what I was seeing. Then, despite everything, I started to laugh. Not a happy laugh, more like the sound a man makes when he realizes the cosmic joke has finally reached the punchline, and he's it. Well, I whispered to my reflection in the bathroom mirror, at least he's got a sense of humor. And apparently access to a mold kit. I looked down at my wedding ring, a simple gold band I'd worn for 6 years. On impulse, I slipped it off and tried it on the plaster appendage. Perfect fit. Of course it was. I put the ring back on my finger, wrapped the gift back up exactly as I'd found it, and returned it to Sloane's purse. Then I took 2 Tylenol, went back to bed, and lay there staring at the ceiling until dawn, planning. Sloane woke up at 7:30, same as always. She stretched like a cat, all graceful limbs and satisfied sighs. Her auburn hair caught the morning light streaming through our floor-to-ceiling windows, and for a moment, I remembered why I'd fallen in love with her. Then I remembered the gift box. "Morning, handsome," she purred, rolling over to nuzzle my neck. "Sleep well?" "Like a baby," I lied. "How about you? Any interesting dreams?" She gave me that smile, the one that used to make my heart skip. Now it just made me think of sharks. Nothing I can remember. You know how I am. Once I'm out cold. Right, dead to the world. I sat up, stretching. "How about I make you breakfast in bed? It's Saturday, after all." Her eyes lit up. Sloane loved being pampered, loved the idea of herself as a woman worthy of breakfast in bed and rose petals scattered on Egyptian cotton sheets. "Really? You'd do that?" "Of course. Anything for my wife." I kissed her forehead, tasting the expensive night cream she slathered on religiously. "Just relax. I'll bring you something special." I padded to the kitchen, taking my time with the coffee and toast. Through the bedroom doorway, I could hear Sloane actually humming as she checked her phone, probably texting with her girlfriends about their weekend plans or maybe with T about their little inside joke. When I returned to the bedroom, I carried a tray with coffee, toast, orange juice, and the silver-wrapped gift box from her purse. "What's this?" she asked, sitting up against the headboard. She was wearing one of my old college t-shirts, and it should have looked cute. Instead, it felt like mockery. "I found this in your purse when I was looking for Tylenol," I said, keeping my voice perfectly neutral. "Figured you'd want to open it." The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. Her hands shook as she took the box, and I watched her realize that the wrapping had been disturbed. "Eli, I can explain—" "Open it first," I said, settling into the chair by our bedroom window. "Then we'll talk." She unwrapped it with trembling fingers, and when she lifted the lid, she actually gasped. The plaster cast sat there in all its anatomically correct glory. My wedding ring still fitted perfectly around it. You know, I said conversationally, I have to give your friend credit. That's some impressive craftsmanship. Very detailed work. Though I have to wonder, was this a one-time casting or does he have a whole collection? Maybe he's planning to go into business. Eli, please. I held up a hand. The ring was a nice touch on my part, don't you think? Turns out your boyfriend and I have something in common after all. Maybe he's not quite as unforgettable as he thinks he is. Sloane's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. For a woman who made her living in public relations, spinning stories and managing crises, she seemed remarkably at a loss for words. I stood up, straightening my shirt. I'm going out for a while. When I get back, I expect you to be gone. Take your things, take your little memento there, but leave the ring. The real one, I mean. You can keep that one as a consolation prize. Where are you going? She whispered. I paused at the bedroom door, looking back at the woman I'd shared a bed with for 6 years. The woman who'd apparently been sharing a lot more than that with someone else. To see a lawyer. Mir's been telling me for months that I should call her if I ever needed legal advice. Turns out, today's the day. I walked out of the apartment to the sound of Sloane screaming my name, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. Mira Gonzalez had been our neighbor for 3 years, ever since she'd bought the apartment 2 floors down with her divorce settlement. She was a family law attorney with a reputation for being ruthless in court and a soft spot for underdogs. She also made the best margaritas in the building and had no filter when she'd had a few drinks. I found her in the building's gym at 8 a.m., attacking the elliptical machine like it had personally wronged her. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe ponytail, and she wore the kind of workout clothes that cost more than my monthly car payment. Well, well, she said when she saw me, if it isn't Mr. Hammond, you look like hell. Let me guess. You finally found out about Sloane and the tech boy. I stopped, dead in my tracks. You knew? She stepped off the machine, grabbing a towel to wipe her face. Honey, everyone in this building knows. The walls are thin, the elevator gossip is thick, and your wife isn't nearly as discreet as she thinks she is. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I was hoping you could tell me. Mira grinned, and it wasn't a nice expression. Now we're talking. Come on up to my place. Let's discuss your options over coffee. The good stuff, not that swill you buy at the grocery store. An hour later, I was sitting in Mira's kitchen, which looked like it belonged in a magazine spread about successful single women. Everything was white and chrome and spotless, with just enough personal touches to keep it from looking like a hotel room. So, Mira said, refilling my coffee cup, tell me everything. And I mean everything. Don't leave out any details, no matter how embarrassing or weird they seem. I told her about the plaster cast, the note, the ring. I told her about Sloane's late nights, her new obsession with the gym, the way she'd started password protecting her phone. Mira listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. Trent Wallace, she said when I finished. That's got to be who T is. He's the CEO of some tech startup downtown. Drives a Tesla, lives in one of those glass towers on 5th Street. Thinks he's God's gift to womankind. You know him? I know his type. Rich, entitled, thinks the rules don't apply to him. The kind of man who sends plaster casts of his penis to married women and thinks it's charming. She tapped her pen against the legal pad. The good news is, you've got grounds for divorce. The bad news is, he's got money and connections. What do you recommend? Mira's smile could have cut glass. Scorched earth, baby. We're going to take her for everything she's worth, and we're going to make sure everyone knows why. Is that legal? Everything I'm going to suggest is perfectly legal. What? Whether it's ethical is another question entirely, but frankly, I stopped caring about ethics when your wife started screwing around behind your back. She leaned forward, But first, we need evidence. Real evidence. Not just a kinky gift and your suspicions. What kind of evidence? Photos, texts, emails, financial records showing unexplained expenses. The more documentation we have, the stronger our case. She paused. I don't suppose you have access to her phone or computer? I thought about it. She uses the same password for everything, our wedding date. She's not exactly a cybersecurity expert. Perfect. But we need to be smart about this. We can't do anything that could be construed as illegal surveillance or invasion of privacy. Everything has to be above board. So, how do we get the evidence? Mira's grin widened. Leave that to me. I have a friend who specializes in digital forensics. Completely legitimate, completely legal. If there's evidence to be found, Randy will find it. Randy turned out to be a wiry guy in his 40s who looked like he'd stepped out of a computer repair shop circa 1995. He wore thick glasses, had grease under his fingernails, and could apparently hack into anything with a microchip. Your wife's got terrible digital hygiene, he told me 3 days later, handing me a manila folder thick with printouts. Uses the same password for everything, doesn't clear her browser history, backs everything up to the cloud automatically. It's like she wanted to get caught. I opened the folder and immediately wished I hadn't. Photos, text messages, email chains. All of it explicit, all of it damning. Sloan and Trent had been carrying on for 6 months, and they documented every sordid detail. There's more, Randy said, pulling out his laptop. Financial records show she's been using your joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms, expensive dinners, even a weekend trip to wine country. She charged the mold-making kit to your Amazon account. She what? Yeah, apparently making plaster casts is a thing now. Who knew? Randy scrolled through the records. She's been sloppy about covering her tracks. Either she's incredibly stupid, or she wanted you to find out. I studied the evidence, feeling a cold rage settle in my chest. This wasn't just an affair. It was a systematic humiliation. Every hotel room, every expensive dinner, every intimate moment had been paid for with our money, documented with our technology, planned in our home. What's your next move? Mira asked. I looked at the photos scattered across Randy's desk, at the text messages full of crude jokes about my inadequacies, at the credit card statements showing thousands of dollars spent on another man's pleasure. I'm going to return the favor, I said. She wanted to humiliate me? Fine. Let's see how she likes being on the receiving end. What did you have in mind? I smiled, and even I could hear the edge in it. Public relations is all about managing perception, right? Controlling the narrative? Well, it's time for a new story. The plan was simple, elegant, and completely legal. If Sloan wanted to play games, I'd show her what a real player looked like. First stop, her office. Sloan worked for Morrison & Associates, a mid-tier PR firm that occupied the 15th floor of a glass tower downtown. The kind of place where everyone wore expensive suits and spoke in corporate buzzwords, where image was everything and substance was optional. I'd been there exactly twice in our 6-year marriage, once for a Christmas party, once for a company picnic. Both times, Sloan had introduced me as my husband, the mechanic, with just enough condescension in her voice to make it clear she thought she'd married beneath her station. The thing is, I wasn't just a mechanic. I owned Hammond Restoration Services, specializing in vintage automobiles and antique safes. I had a degree in mechanical engineering and made more money than most of Sloan's coworkers. But she preferred the narrative that cast her as the successful breadwinner married to blue-collar muscle. Today, that narrative was about to change. I walked into the Morrison & Associates lobby at 10 a.m. sharp, wearing my best suit and carrying a manila envelope. The receptionist, a young woman with perfect teeth and dead eyes, looked up from her computer. Can I help you? I'm here to see Sloan Hammond. I'm her husband. Oh, her expression brightened with fake enthusiasm. She's in a meeting right now, but Actually, I'm not here to see her. I'm here to deliver something to her. I held up the envelope. It's time-sensitive legal documents. I need to make sure she gets them today. The receptionist's smile faltered. Legal documents? Divorce papers, I said loudly enough for the entire lobby to hear. Among other things. I could feel every eye in the lobby turn toward us. The waiting area, which had been filled with the quiet murmur of business conversations, fell silent. Sir, maybe we should. It's fine, I said, opening the envelope. She's going to want to see this anyway. I pulled out an 1117 photograph, a blown-up image of the plaster cast with my wedding ring fitted around it, along with a caption I'd had printed at the copy shop. Sloane Hammond, adultery, fraud, and poor taste in mementos. Divorce proceedings begin Monday. The receptionist's face went white. Behind her, I could hear someone gasp. Could you make sure she gets this? I asked, handing her the photo. And tell her the ring still fits. She'll know what that means. I turned and walked toward the elevator, leaving behind a lobby full of stunned faces and whispered conversations. As the elevator doors closed, I could hear the receptionist frantically dialing Sloane's extension. My phone started ringing before I reached the parking garage. What the hell did you...
He just gave me a massage. That's it!
Remember, I won't be a cuckold!
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
You just do? Sloane's voice was shrill with panic. I returned your gift, I said calmly, with interest. You can't just... People saw that. My coworkers, my boss. Good. Maybe now they'll understand why you've been so distracted lately. Hard to focus on work when you're busy molding other men's body parts. Eli, please, we can work this out. No, we can't. You made your choice 6 months ago. Now you get to live with the consequences. I hung up and drove to my shop, feeling lighter than I had in months. The first shot had been fired, and it had hit its target perfectly. Randy was waiting for me when I got to Hammond Restoration, sitting in my office with his laptop open and a grin on his face. Dude, that was beautiful, he said. I've been monitoring social media, and the Morrison and Associates hashtag is blowing up. Someone live tweeted the whole thing. Seriously? Check this out. He turned his laptop screen toward me. OMG just witnessed the most epic divorce announcement ever at Morrison and Associates. This woman's husband showed up with a photo of a plaster penis and called her out for adultery in front of everyone. Drama alert. Marriage fail. Karma. I scrolled through the comments, watching as the story spread from person to person, each retelling adding new details and speculation. Within an hour, it had been shared hundreds of times. This is better than I hoped, I said. It gets better. I've been tracking Sloane's digital footprint, and she's in full damage control mode. She's been calling and texting everyone she knows, trying to get ahead of the story. Randy pulled up another screen. But here's the thing, she's making it worse. Every explanation just confirms more details. My phone buzzed with a text from Mira. Saw the social media explosion. Brilliant move. Sloane's lawyer called. They want to meet. You've got them rattled. What's next? Randy asked. I thought about it, weighing my options. The office visit had been a surgical strike, designed to damage Sloane's professional reputation and establish the narrative. But it was just the opening move. Now we escalate, I said. Time to pay a visit to Mr. Trent Wallace. Randy's eyebrows shot up. The boyfriend? Is that wise? Probably not. But it's going to be fun. Finding Trent wasn't difficult. According to the financial records Randy had uncovered, he lived in the Meridian Tower, one of those glass and steel monuments to gentrification that had sprouted downtown like expensive weeds, the kind of building where the doorman wore a uniform and the elevator required a key card. I waited in the parking garage, sitting in my pickup truck and watching the entrance. At 6:30, a silver Tesla pulled into the garage and parked in a spot marked T. Wallace Penthouse. Trent Wallace looked exactly like I'd expected. Tall, athletic, with the kind of perfect hair that required professional maintenance. He wore a suit that cost more than most people's cars, and walked with the confident stride of a man who'd never been told no. I got out of my truck and approached him as he headed for the elevator. Trent Wallace? He turned, looking annoyed at the interruption. Yes? Can I help you? I'm Eli Hammond, Sloane's husband. His expression changed instantly, confidence replaced by wariness. Oh, I see. I wanted to thank you, I said conversationally, for the gift. Very thoughtful. Creative, too. I had no idea plaster casting was such a popular hobby these days. Trent glanced around the parking garage, probably looking for security cameras or witnesses. Look, I think there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding at all. You've been screwing my wife for 6 months, documenting every moment, and sending her souvenirs to remember you by. I actually admire the audacity. What do you want? I smiled. I want you to know that I'm not angry. Disappointed? Sure. Disgusted? Absolutely. But not angry. You see, anger implies that I still care about Sloan, and frankly, you've cured me of that particular affliction. Trent relaxed slightly, mistaking my calm tone for weakness. So we can handle this like adults? Oh, absolutely. In fact, I brought you a little gift of my own. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a small box. Consider it a token of my appreciation. He took the box cautiously as if it might explode. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a single wedding ring, Sloane's wedding ring, which I'd taken from our apartment that morning. She won't be needing this anymore, I said. I thought you might want it as a keepsake. You know, something to remember her by when you move on to your next married conquest. Trent's face flushed red. You son of a... Careful, I interrupted. We're being adults, remember? Besides, I'd hate for this conversation to end up on social media. You've seen what happened to Sloane today, right? The internet can be so unforgiving. He stared at me for a long moment, then dropped the box. The ring rolled across the concrete floor with a metallic ping. Stay away from me, he said, and stay away from Sloane. Oh, I intend to stay far away from both of you, but I can't control what other people do. For instance, I can't control whether someone might leak those photos you two have been sharing, or those text messages, or the financial records showing how you've been spending my money on hotel rooms. Trent's face went pale. You're threatening me? Not at all. I'm just making conversation. Adult to adult, as you said. I bent down and picked up the wedding ring, slipping it into my pocket. But if I were you, I'd be very careful about my digital footprint going forward. The internet has a long memory, and people love a good scandal. I walked back to my truck, leaving Trent standing alone in the parking garage. As I drove away, I could see him in my rearview mirror, frantically typing on his phone. My own phone buzzed with a text from Randy. Sloane's been trying to reach you all day. 17 missed calls, 32 text messages, she's losing it. I smiled and typed back, good. The fun's just getting started. The text from my old buddy Jake came at 7 a.m. on Sunday. Dude, we need to talk. Coffee at Murphy's in an hour. Jake Morrison had been my best friend since college. We'd been roommates, best men at each other's weddings, and partners in more stupid adventures than I could count. If Jake wanted to meet for coffee, it meant he'd heard about the Sloane situation and wanted to stage some kind of intervention. Murphy's Diner was our usual spot, a greasy spoon that served coffee strong enough to wake the dead and breakfast that could clog your arteries just by looking at it. I arrived to find Jake already there, sitting in our regular booth with 2 cups of coffee and a grim expression. Eli, he said as I slid into the seat across from him, what the hell's going on? Good morning to you too, Jake. How's Sarah? The kids? Don't deflect. I've been getting calls all weekend. Sloane, her friends, even her mother. Everyone's saying you've lost your mind. I took a sip of coffee, savoring the bitter bite. What exactly are they saying? That you humiliated her at work? That you're spreading lies about her having an affair? That you're trying to destroy her reputation out of spite? Jake leaned forward. Tell me it's not true. Which part? The humiliation? The affair? Or the reputation destruction? All of it. Any of it. Jake's voice carried a note of desperation. Come on, man. This is Sloane we're talking about. She loves you. She'd never cheat. I reached into my jacket and pulled out one of the photos Randy had printed for me. Nothing explicit, just Sloane and Trent having dinner at an expensive restaurant, looking very cozy. Jake stared at the photo for a long moment. This could be anything. A business dinner, It's dated 3 weeks ago, Tuesday night. The same night Sloane told me she was working late on the Morrison account. I pulled out another photo. Here's one from last month, and another from 6 weeks ago. Should I keep going? Jake's face sagged. Shit. Yeah. Shit. I put the photos back in my jacket. So, When you ask me if I'm destroying her reputation, the answer is no. She destroyed it herself. I'm just making sure people know the truth. But the way you're handling it, showing up at her office, making a scene, what would you have done, Jake? Found out your wife was cheating, then quietly filed for divorce and slunk away with my tail between my legs? Let her spin the story however she wanted? Jake was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee cup. I don't know. Maybe talk to her first? Tried to work it out? With what? She's been lying to my face for 6 months. She's been using our money to pay for hotel rooms with her boyfriend. She's been laughing about me behind my back, sharing intimate details of our marriage with a man who thinks I'm a joke. I felt the anger rising in my chest, hot and sharp. Tell me, Jake, what exactly would we work out? I just think, you think I should be the bigger man. Turn the other cheek, take the high road. I shook my head. You know what the high road gets you, Jake? A better view while you're getting screwed. That's not, it is though. You want me to be reasonable, to be mature, to handle this quietly so nobody gets embarrassed. But the only person who should be embarrassed is Sloane. She's the one who broke our marriage vows. She's the one who lied and cheated and stole. Why should I protect her from the consequences? Jake rubbed his face with both hands. Because you're better than this. The Eli I know wouldn't. The Eli you know was married to a woman who respected him. That Eli is gone. I stood up, dropping a $5 bill on the table. And frankly, Jake, if you can't see the difference between being a victim and being vindictive, then maybe you don't know me as well as you think. I walked out of Murphy's feeling like I'd lost more than just a marriage. Jake had been my friend for 15 years, but he was choosing Sloane's version of events over the evidence I'd shown him. It hurt more than I'd expected. My phone buzzed with a text from Tom Bradley, another old friend. Heard about you and Sloane. Sorry, man. Let me know if you need anything. Then another from Mike Chen. Dude, what's this I'm hearing about you stalking Sloane's boyfriend? That's not cool. And another from Dave Wilson. Sarah says Sloane's been calling everyone, crying. Says you're having some kind of breakdown. Maybe you should talk to someone. I sat in my truck in Murphy's parking lot, scrolling through message after message. Half my friends were offering support. The other half were questioning my sanity. Sloane had been busy, working her PR magic, controlling the narrative just like she did for her clients. The final text came from Marcus Webb, my oldest friend. Emergency meeting tonight. My place, 8 p.m. Everyone's coming. We need to sort this out. I stared at the message for a long moment. Marcus had been the leader of our group since high school, the one who settled disputes and kept everyone together. If he was calling an emergency meeting, it meant the gang had chosen sides, and I had a feeling I knew which side they'd chosen. I drove home to my empty apartment, poured myself a scotch, and waited for 8 o'clock. Marcus lived in a suburban split level that screamed middle-class respectability. His wife had decorated it in earth tones and inspirational quotes, and it always smelled like vanilla candles and disappointment. I'd been there countless times over the years for barbecues, birthday parties, and poker games. Tonight, it felt like walking into enemy territory. They were all there. Jake, Tom, Mike, Dave, even Bobby Martinez, who I hadn't seen in months. They sat in Marcus's living room like a tribunal, their faces serious and uncomfortable. Eli, Marcus said as I walked in, thanks for coming. We need to talk. So I gathered. I looked around the room, noting the way they avoided eye contact. And let me guess, Sloane called you all, told you her side of the story, and now you're here to stage an intervention. She's worried about you, Tom said. She says you're not acting like yourself. Really? How should I be acting? Happy? Grateful? Should I be throwing a party to celebrate my wife's infidelity? Nobody's saying that, Marcus said carefully. But the way you're handling it is completely legal and entirely justified. I sat down in the only empty chair, a floral monstrosity that Marcus's wife had bought at a garage sale. She cheated. I have proof. I'm divorcing her and making sure everyone knows why. What part of that seems unreasonable to you? The public humiliation part, Mike said. Showing up at her work, posting things on social media, harassing her boyfriend. I haven't posted anything on social media. Other people have shared what they witnessed. But that's not my doing. As for harassing her boyfriend, I had one conversation with him. One. I didn't threaten him, didn't touch him, didn't even raise my voice. Sloan says you're stalking them, Dave said. Sloan says a lot of things. Most of them are lies. I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through the evidence Randy had compiled. Would you like to see the text messages where she jokes about my sexual performance? Or maybe the hotel receipts showing where she's been spending our money? How about the photos of them together? We don't need to see, Marcus started. Yes, you do. I stood up, holding out my phone. Because you're sitting here questioning my judgment based on the word of a woman who's been lying to everyone for months. You want to know why I'm not handling this quietly? Because she doesn't deserve quiet. She deserves exactly what she's getting. The room fell silent. I could see them exchanging glances, having silent conversations about my mental state and their obligations as friends. Look, Jake said finally, we get it. You're hurt, you're angry, but this isn't you, man. You're not vindictive. You don't hold grudges. You're the guy who forgives people, who gives second chances. I was that guy. That guy was married to a woman who deserved forgiveness. This guy is married to a woman who spent 6 months making him look like a fool while she screwed around with her boyfriend. So what's...